And hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Tea at the Table, brought to you by Friday Afternoon Tea. Nerdy teas for thirsty nerds. Check the link in the show description and use code Multiverse, that's MULTEAVERSE, to get 10% off of your purchase over at Fridays. Buy some good teas, you guys. Get thirsty with us. Not in that way. Well, sure, in that way if you really want to. I'm not your boss. We're trying something new this session. We're a brand new segment of Tea at the Table called Build-A-Bard. By popular demand, we had a session of votes in our Discord server. Look for the link to the Discord server also in the description, mind you. Come and hang out and be nerds with us. And it was decided that we would drop some bardic lore about our Bardsonas. Unfortunately, Selkie could not join us tonight, but we will get them on a later date with an episode of their own to be featured on the Ko-fi. So, look out for more information about that. But yeah, I am joined tonight by fantastic. I should probably introduce myself as well. Hi, I'm Sphinx Akashaa, your current champion of bards. And I said current. I said current this time. I did. And I will be your host and one of the Bardsonas talking about lore this episode. And I'm joined by three out of the other four fantastic Bardsonas tonight. We're going to go ahead and let them introduce themselves. I'm going to start with Brynniursa this time.
Sorry, I was trying to make the space bar work. It did not. Hello, I'm Brynniursa, and I bask in obscurity. Therefore, that's all. No, I made that joke last time. It's still iconic, but hi. I'm Bryn. Ears. It's past 10 o'clock, everyone. This is what you get. This is what you get when we start at 10. But you know me as either Odile, my Bardsona, or Jody Bank, the teacher in the Everbright archives turned hero.
Yay.
I don't know what else to say.
That's fair. That's great. You did great. We're gonna go ahead and turn to Bardic Sweet T.
Well, good evening, or good morning, or good afternoon, whenever you're listening to this or watching this. I have no idea if this is going to be on YouTube or if it's going to be on Spotify. We'll figure this out as we go. My name is Sweet T. I can be found on all the socials at Bardic Sweet T. You guys would know me here as either Tyson or as the teacher Malachi Davis. And that's me, y'all.
Awesome. I will then turn our attention to Madness Diamond.
Hiya! I'm Madness Diamond, but since we're friends now, you can call me Diamond. I use they, she pronouns, and since you're here watching Tea at the Table Build-A-Bard edition, you will either know me as Jemmy Horde, the curator of epics, or Lysander Agni, who is still not an arsonist, who is one of the teachers in our little fabulous Ultimate game. So,
and just as a note for those of you watching, listening, there is an official I am not an arsonist counter now. So, hang out in our Discord for updates as to where we are in the counter. But why don't we go ahead and get started? Lots were drawn, and by lots being drawn, I mean fingers were pointed. And it was decided that I shall go first. as the champion of bards, aka Griot. Now that the true name of the champion of bards has been revealed. So yeah. So we've got some questions here that we're going to be answering, and very likely we'll have more questions from our bards here that we will probably answer as well. So I will start with the champion. Where they are from is our first question, and that's a very kind of complicated question. As it was revealed that the champion has not always been the champion of bards. The champion had a life before where he was in fact Badru Kamar. For those of you who follow me on TikTok, you know who that is, and now you know that Badru and the champion are the same person, sort of. Badru was born in Faerun, and was born in the... Hang on, I've got notes here. In the Western Heartlands area of Faerun, where he grew up for some time with both of his parents. And then after his mom disappeared, his grandfather, Jericho, stepped in to help his father raise him. So they are from a version of Faerun, one of the multiverse versions of Faerun, off somewhere in the weaving, just kind of hanging out. And it was there that Badru kind of trained to become a bard and a cleric, a glamour bard and a cleric of the Twilight domain, initially following the path of Selûne, but eventually following under his grandfather's footsteps in the way of the storied path, which is a fun time that we will answer questions about maybe a little bit later, depending. Let's see. Important moments to them that shaped them into a deity. Well, there's a couple of those. So Badru eventually, along the timeline, met and married his paladin, a wonderful woman named Wisteria, who he sometimes refers to as Willow. As you know, they settled down and became adventurers together, which is a weird kind of juxtaposition. We're going to settle down and become adventurers. It's going to be great. He noticed eventually that she aged and he didn't, and that came to be of some concern to him. And as he was kind of starting to understand this, his grandfather Jericho showed up, having never aged a day for as long as Badru was able to remember, and Jericho basically reveals to Badru that he is a quarter celestial on his father's side, and because Jericho is his father's father. It's so weird. The lore. And that they belong to a particular race of celestials known as the Travelers, which is where the way of the storied path comes from. And it's according to the lore around the Travelers, while they are in fact celestial beings, they basically reject the notion of themselves as gods, and have adopted rather the mantles of protectors of basically the storied path and the sacred tapestry of the multiverse and stories and all of that stuff. So that's one. And the other thing is, I would say both the entirety of what we call the Multiverse War and its eventual end, which is to say, after the death of his wife, Badru basically hops around the multiverse, adventuring for a bit, while Jericho eventually discovers that these other dimensional beings called the Devourers essentially are threatening to eat all of the stories in the multiverse. And if you eat all of the stories of a universe, that universe ceases to exist. So Jericho, having witnessed the death of a couple of multiverses, as it were, or a couple of universes, rather, as it were, was busy trying to, like, convince the Council of the Travelers, like, hey, we need to do something about this. And so, in that time, enlisted Badru's help to go hopping around the multiverse, doing what he can to kind of basically arm universes to be able to defend themselves against the Devourers. It is where he met BB, who would eventually become Jemmy Horde, and develop a friendship that would lead into more than that, or at least it started to lead to more than that. And then the war happened, and Badru basically sent Jemmy back to protect them, and went on the front lines and fought against the Devourers along with his people. It didn't go well, because his people started dying, and it looked like we were going to lose. The Travelers basically set off a ritual that, while it destroyed the Devourers, it also destroyed them, as well as their home of Wayfarer, which is the world that the Travelers are initially from. The only reason that Badru survived is because his mortality protected his celestial form from this ritual that the Travelers enacted. But he was still fairly close-ish to death, and like in grief for several reasons. The loss of this new homeworld that he had learned about, the loss of his people, the suspected loss of Jemmy, because someone lied to you, boy, and told him that Jemmy had also perished in the war. And Badru, who had lots of feelings for Jemmy, was very much aggrieved by that. But Jemmy had managed to send Badru a crystal containing refugees that Jemmy had helped to save. And so, kind of as a last-ditch effort to save what he could of Wayfarer, and also help both the refugees that Jemmy sent, as well as any other refugees from across the multiverse that, happened to be left from the war, he essentially gave up his mortality and spent it to turn what was left of Wayfarer into the Eye of the Wayfinder, which now sits at the center of the multiverse. However, that meant that Badru kind of died. And in doing so, it released his celestial form, which is what we now know as the Champion of Bards, aka Griot, who has all of the memories and what have you of Badru, but slightly different personality, slight shift, tilt on the personality a bit. No longer has the accent. The accent is all gone. It is very gone. But yeah, and that kind of goes into the third question, where we talk about important characters in their history or in their story. So, of course, there are his parents, Nia and Belar Kamar. Bilal being his father, Nia, of course, being his mother. There's Jericho, who is Bilal's father, and the actual full-blooded Celestial of the family initially. There is Wisteria, who Badru meets during that first life, and they fall in love. They get married. She starts off as like a tavern keep. She owns this tavern. They fall in love, and she swears an oath of devotion to protect him. And they go adventuring together. There's rumors about how the legends don't really give information of how she actually died. Some say she died of old age. Some say that she died protecting Badru in battle. I, of course, know, but y'all don't yet. And then there, how dare me? Oh my gosh! Oh my god! Such I could feel that all the way over here. That hit me in my chest. Oh. There is, of course, Jemmy, who Badru will meet later, and they are someone of great import to Badru as they help Badru understand that the capacity for love and affection has not left him, and for lack of a better term, they are his river song. And yes, fandom, cry, tears. And there's, of course, the other Bardsonas as well. Odile, who Badru had heard stories of, thanks to his grandfather Jericho. There's Tyzon, who he meets at some point during his hop bouncing around of the multiverse. There is Phobator and Rabbit and Erebos, who has always known Badru, but Badru gets to meet also kind of during the beginning of the jumping around of the multiverse. And then that's all of the Bardsonas. There's also a very important person to Badru is Magnus, who everyone got to meet during the first episode. He's a goblin artificer and bard, which not many people know, that he's also got some levels in bard. College of Creation, I believe. And is a Magnus from an alternate timeline. For those of you who've listened to Agents of the Circle, it's not the same Magnus from Agents of the Circle. It is a different Magnus that went on to marry Ozma and become kind of the king consort, but his universe was destroyed during the war. He started off kind of as a friend of Jericho's, who gets introduced to Badru before the war, and they become fast friends. They trust each other with their lives, and Magnus actually witnessed Badru's transformation into the champion of bards, and so helped him build the Everbright and helps him manage it, and is also kind of the new kind of keeper of the keys for the Great Library, which is attached to the Everbright archive. What do you think? Is there any other important characters in the history or story? I don't think so. I think those are like the big ones. But stay tuned, because there's going to be videos and stuff about so much of this stuff that's going to be coming soon. And yeah, it's exciting. I don't know. Are there any other questions? Or did I just roll through everything? This is a new format, you guys.
I think you rolled through it. You just kept on keeping on.
All right. Yeah. Oh shit.
Well, I have a question for you.
Here we go.
Here we go.
What is it?
I have a
Give me the
question.
question.
Mainly so then we can plug our lovely affiliate. Friday tea. If Badru was to pick a tea from the selections, what would Badru drink?
Ooh, that is a great question. Ooh.
Because I imagine Badru
What
knows
immediate?
all of them.
Oh, 100%. It is Badru / the champion's favorite place to acquire tea in the multiverse. He probably, he definitely, it is now canon. He sells a bunch of Friday afternoon tea in the shop. Like, it's just, there's a whole shelf that's just her teas. The first tea that comes to mind when I think of Badru is this beautiful tea called Good Witch Bakery. It is a part of Friday's Studio Ghibli collection, and is based on Kiki's delivery service. It is very good. It tastes and smells like baked sweets, but is also like I believe there's some oolong and some green tea in it as well, and it's just immaculate. It is so good. It is a seasonal offering, unfortunately, and I think you can only get it in the fall, but it is well worth the wait and well worth the spend for it. So I highly recommend Good Witch Bakery from Friday Afternoon Teas. It's one of my favorites as well.
And don't forget, we've got a code with Friday Afternoon Tea, which is multiverse. And our lovely Sphinx Akashaa also has a whole section on the website where you can see someone's favorites to narrow down your selections.
It's true.
It helped me order my first one. So, promo plug. Well, we switch to our... Do we have any other questions from our other bards?
Yeah.
I'm blanking. I'm so sorry.
What was Badru's worst enemy he fought while he was alive? Beyond, the one that was, eating everything.
Sure. Outside of the Devourers.
Yeah.
Ooh, that is a great question. I would say there was, and Badru has been in a few campaigns that I've played in personally. This is how I've kind of come to develop his character and his story and stuff. There was a vampire lord that Badru fought in Faerun in Baldur's Gate, I believe, and this was a dude who was, he was basically like the head of like an underworld kind of scenario, like very much a crime boss. And we did not know that he was the crime boss. We thought that we knew he was a vampire. We thought he was on our side, and then he tried to kill us all. And it was a very rough battle. A bunch of us went down. It was, I think Badru also went down once, but then got brought back up. And I want to say it was a very, very well-placed combination of dissonant whispers and spiritual weapon that kind of helped stem that. And for those of you wondering, Badru's spiritual weapon is a glowing, floating lute that just bashes people upside the head, very like rock and roll, very heavy metal style. I don't remember that vampire's name, but I do remember that the fight happened at night, and so the vampire was even more powerful. And he had like summoned a bunch of werewolves, and it was freaking weird, and it was rough. But like Baju, who was also attuned to Saloon, was also able to kind of like help out with the werewolves and do some really, really cool things with the oh boy, not disintegrate, because he wasn't high enough level at that point. The one where you touch them and it does like all the necrotic damage. I can't remember the name of the spell. It's an early level spell. But yeah, he had some fun with that one. And that's definitely one of his worst enemies for sure. Outside of that, he had a Tressum, and his Tressum could be a real pain in the butt when he wanted to be. He wouldn't necessarily count. What was the Tressum's name?
Baby Tressum.
He wouldn't have counted Shoxy as an enemy. But it was definitely he had moments where it's like, what are you doing? Why are you? No, come back here with that. I need that book. Come back here with that. No, do not. You come back here with my loot. Yeah, you're just energetic boy.
I love it so much.
All right, I have a question.
Yeah, you better ask that question, Sweet T. Gosh.
If Badru, Griot, Champion, however moniker they want to go by, could go back in time and change the events that turned them into a deity, would they?
Ooh. If he could, I would say there would be the caveat to that would be if it meant that he could save his people. If it meant that his people didn't have to die, then yes, absolutely in a heartbeat, he 100% would. Because the multiverse is a little worse off for the death of the travelers, and he, as a result, like he now bears all of that responsibility on himself, and he doesn't sleep. I'll put it that way. But he's a Celestial. He doesn't really have to. But yeah, he would have 100% go back in time and save his people.
Iconic. Iconic.
Thank you. Yeah. So, if are there any more questions for me about Badru / Griot / the champion, current champion?
I mean, if our audience has questions, they can always join our Discord server. We have a section that's called Ask a Storyteller, and they could be featured in one of our talks.
And Odile would love to yap.
Yeah.
Just so you know. She has lots to say. Why aren't you asking her things?
If you like this content, and you want to hear more from us about these weird bardic deities we've created or the other characters we've created, please ask us questions. We will just tell you. We will slide all that information and all those secrets to you.
We are nerds. We love to talk about the stuff that we love. It's coded into us. It's just so
give
please
us an
ask
excuse.
us this.
Any excuse. Well, I think
Any excuse.
I think it's now Bryn's turn.
Hey, Bryn.
Hey, Bryn.
My turn?
It's your turn.
Well,
Yeah.
I think y'all are gonna have to wait because I really have to go.
That's fine.
No worries, we can
I'll
come
just
back
be
to
right-
you.
I'll be right back. Or you can edit this part out and it will be a seamless
This is where we put the
transition.
commercial.
Just
Hey,
that off
I mean,
there.
bowling rules. If someone's away from the lane, just go to the next person. We'll come back to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, which brings me to Sweet T. Hey, buddy. What's
Oh,
happening?
hi. Hi. I didn't realize I was up after Bryn. Oh, gosh.
If
Oh,
you're
no.
not ready, I can go. It's fine.
No, I can do it. I can. I'm not nervous. Sweats.
Sweats profusely.
Oh my gosh. Alrighty. So I get to talk about Taizan. This is interesting because I feel like, unlike our absolutely amazing storyteller Sphinx here, Taizan is a character I specifically created for the show. This wasn't like a pre-existing character that I had and ready for. So I will say he probably doesn't have as much backstory as Bajra, but I will absolutely build more on him as he goes.
Hey, I'll let you in on a secret. When we were creating our Bardsonas, I wanted to give the champion of bards a backstory. I slapped Badru in there at the last minute. Like Badru was never intended to have like died and transitioned into this thing. But it was like, hey, that'd be a good story. Hey,
yeah. So I believe the first question was where they're from, and
yes,
interesting enough, Taizan. First of all, Taizan, not his original name. I mean, I guess I have no reason to hide it. We're talking about our Bardsonas now. His original name is actually Terrence, and he was just a degular guy in an alternate universe of Earth, where we all are living right now. I like to believe that in the infinite multiverse, literally every single instance of reality has existed at some point. Like, so somewhere out there, the DC universe is a real thing. The Marvel universe is a real thing. Doctor Who universe is a real thing. It's like, and what he actually learned through his time being his multiversal universal watch yourself is that literally anytime someone comes up with an idea, it's because they dreamt it, because they got a small vision of an already existing universe.
Nice.
That is how creators come up with things when they imagine things. This thing that they imagine actually exists in another universe, and they just got an idea from it. So he's from just Earth, just like ours, except in his universe, magic is real, of course. Goodness, I want to say, I don't know if it'd be like present day or if it's in the past, because they didn't have like fancy technology or anything like that. So I'm gonna say it's present day. I'm gonna say present day is where he's from. He's not there anymore, obviously. Not me making stuff up on the fly. Like I had a bare bones of his backstory. Now I have to add detail to it. Oh gosh. Basically, what happened was, which I guess I'm now drifting into the important moments that shaped him into a deity. What happened was there was a book that existed. It's actually Taizan's book that he has now. It actually belonged to a different person. He wanted that book because it allowed them to traverse the multiverse, and he wanted to go through the various universes to see if he can find someone to save his terminally ill mother. So, obviously that did not work out the way he intended, as he is where he is now. Turns out, when a normal mortal gets their hands on the book actually has a way of kind of taking over that person. The book before him, the book was actually handled by an actual deity, not a regular guy who is now a deity, who was able to handle the book without any kind of repercussion. This person obviously would not meddle in the affairs of mortal people. He didn't think he was that kind of person who, because he's in an infinite multiverse. If he tries to help one person, he has to help them all, and he's not going to go through that. So Taizan actually attempted to steal the book from him. Did not go well. He was thrust into another universe where he was able to team up with a party of heroes. Well, they considered themselves heroes. They were actually more glorified thieves, but they were like Robin Hood-esque characters. He teamed up with them to see if they can try and help him obtain this book. The sad part is the amount of time it took him to actually get this book. His mother had already been passed away. He didn't know this until after he had received the book and was able to travel the multiverse himself. But it was like a fixed point in his story. He never had a chance to save her, and he didn't know that until it was too late. But eventually he was able to get his hands on the book. It did start to almost immediately affect his mind. He did, what's the word I'm looking for? Involuntarily is probably the best word I can think of. Take down the party who had helped him get the book. Because as soon as he got the book and the book started to affect him, the party realized, oh, we messed up. He shouldn't have this book. Let's try and take it back from him. He wasn't having it. So, yeah, little tragic there. Goodness. I write messed up characters. I guess now I'm drifting into the next question as I'm answering the questions. So I guess now we're drifting into important characters in the story, which is his party members that he was traveling with. I did not give names to each of them, but there were 2 rogues, a bard, and a paladin. I could give them names right now if I wanted to, but that's more thought than I'm willing to put into these characters who didn't live that long much after meeting him, to be fair. Yeah, a little bad. But obviously a person who greatly shaped his life was his mother, which is why he went through that whole adventure in an attempt to save her. But upon becoming Taizan, he kind of cut ties with pretty much mortal people in and of itself, like in totality. Because when you live through the existence of the universe just to go back to the beginning every time the universes end, relationships kind of lose their meaning. It's like, oh, this person's gonna die. Give me a few millennia, I'll meet them again. I would say if he did have any connections nowadays, one of them 100% would be Phobator, who he sees in his dreams from time to time. It's odd because his book contains kind of a chapter on every single person in existence, and Phobator's is weird to him. Because Phobator only exists in dreams, so there's not like a straightforward timeline, there's not a rhyme or reason to their existence. They just are in a chapter. We can kind of read about them, but it's difficult to actually get anything legible from them. And I would say, and of course, Odile. Yeah, I know Bryn was waiting for that one. Probably, and he would never admit this out loud, but probably his closest friend. Because unlike most other people who Taizan just kind of tolerates, Taizan will actually kind of not go out of his way, but regularly meet up with Odile to just hang out or go to the apple orchard, as she so often bugs him to do. I think I would say his relationship with Badru is tenuous at best. He's civil, but his opinion, of course, has been soured by the whole champion thing. It's like, how dare you? It's like, you call yourself a champion?
And see, I would say that Badru probably did not know that Taizan considered their relationship tenuous. Badru would be like, oh yeah, my friend Taizan, it's great.
Absolutely. 100%. And I'm trying to think what kind of relationship he would have had with Jemmy, if any at all. Do you think they would have been friends, Jemmy?
I think these two are like such rivals that it's one of those rivalries that you can't help but better the other through spite.
So just a straight up like Goku Vegeta relationship.
Maybe. I think it's very much like, at least that's probably Jemmy's perspective of it, in that like they share such similar like duties in the way that they caretake over certain things. And so it's kind of like you see the grandness of what your power is and your potential in somebody else, and it's almost just like, no. So they can't help but bicker. They can't help but poke fun at each other. They both love Odile. So it's kind of just
Yes.
like, we're Odile's friends who have to hang out at the apple orchard sometimes.
Yes, absolutely valid. I also think that Taizan at some point would love to see Jemmy's book, because like, is their book any similar? Is there any similarities between theirs and mine? I wonder. we won't know. We don't know. He's definitely curious. Not enough to try and steal another book. He's not going to go through that again. And I think that's probably about it. I answered the 3 main questions, I believe. I'm not sure. Does anyone have any questions about Taizan? Ooh, I know. Sorry, go ahead.
I want to know what would cause Taizan, what would drive him to meddle in a mortal affair.
If they meddled with him first. Now, one thing about Taizan's story, and I think I did, I'm not sure if I ever posted it, but I did film a TikTok about this.
Release him!
Is
Give
that...
me your phone. I will release all of your drafts. Give it to me.
Give us the stories.
The thing is, Taizan is a very difficult man to even reach, but people do go after him because they know that if anyone can reach him, they will allow him. He will allow them to like go into other universes, and many people have been like, I need to go to a universe where X and X is the case, or so and so is the case. I want to meet this person in another universe, or I want to change this, and be like, all right, but one stipulation: you have to see it through. I want to see the completion of the story. A lot of people don't like the story once it's started, and they go to a new universe like, oh, this is bad. I want to get out. It's like, nope, you gotta finish it.
That's very interesting. I like that.
Yeah, so if any mortal person ever actually contacts him, then he's like, alright, you've gone through all the effort to see me. Let's see this through.
I have a question.
Let's go.
As a Celestial, and speaking mainly of, and this is kind of like bending my initial cardinal rule about like not really having any. I've already bent that rule about not having anything to do with D&D, but we're not running any D&D games, so this is still not quite breaking the rule so much as bending it. Would Taizan have any warlocks?
Ooh.
Or clerics, or paladins even?
So it's actually kind of interesting you say that, because when I originally made Taizan, I kind of based him off the fact that he himself is technically a warlock, and the book is his patron. Because without the book, again, he's just a degular guy. So I actually think it'd be fascinating, the concept of a warlock having warlocks. I don't think he would, only because his power strictly comes from the book, and it's not really possible to share that.
I like
but
it.
I love the question, though. I love the concepts. I kind of...
Yeah.
I kind of want to see if I can somehow do that.
Do it.
It's my story. Why don't I can change whatever I want.
Darn right you can.
I think my question is going to be, it's referencing something in episode 1, which if people haven't watched it, you need to go watch that, please and thank you. So you can hear our bardic introductions. But Tyzon says that one of the few luxuries he allows himself is indulging in chocolate. What is a luxury? What is a very human baseline luxury that is a temptation, but he can't quite do it? That he can't let himself indulge in?
It's funny. I actually have I have an answer for that. I've already attachments, basically, like person to person attachments. He in his human life, he was actually a hopeless romantic. He loved to write love stories. He loved poetry. He loved songs, and he absolutely just loved love in and of itself. But when you are a person outside of the universe who can only watch it be created, grow old, and then see that all over again, it's difficult to become attached to the people within these universes. If he were allow himself to, again, that's probably a situation in which he would meddle with mortal affairs, and he knows that would be a problem. He can't allow himself to do that. So I think just straight up having attachments is something that he would love to indulge in, but he knows he shouldn't.
You just wait. But the Griot and Tyzon are gonna be friends. Like, we're gonna make this happen. We're gonna be bros. It's gonna be awesome.
You know, I genuinely hope it does happen. I really do.
Gonna be bros.
Also, I just want to say, I know no one asked this question, but this is a question asked of Griot, and I kind of want to answer it for Tyzon. If he had to pick a favorite tea from Friday Tea,
Ooh.
he would absolutely pick Snow Day. For anyone who doesn't know, Snow Day is a black tea with chocolate and hazelnut flavors, little bits of cinnamon, and chunks of dark chocolate. And as we know, chocolate is one of his few human indulgences that he still enjoys. So he absolutely would love a Snow Day from Friday Tea.
It's got dark chocolate and fudge in it. Ooh. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I like that.
And remember, guys, we have a code. If you want to go over to, I don't know the code off the top of my head, but I know Sphinx does.
The code is multiverse. That's MULTEAVERSE.
Yee.
Yes.
So go ahead and get you some quality tea from Friday Tea. And you heard it from Sweet Tea.
Only right here at Tea at the Table, ladies and gentlemen. Tea at the Table with Sweet Tea, which Friday afternoons also offers a sweet tea blend. So, get some.
I might just do that.
I think now we're at we're gonna double back to Brynniursa. Yeah. Hi.
All right. Hi. Hello. Reminds me of the questions. I've been listening, but I have forgotten the questions now that it's my turn.
No worries. The first question is, where are they from?
See, that is an interesting question that we have to break down. The chronoscribe has always existed. Wherever time has, the chronoscribe has as well. Odile has always existed from the beginning of time, and she will always be. However, unknown to everyone, which is a storyline called The Redacted Chronoscribe on TikTok right now, which I do plan to be having in written form for the Ko-Fi. So y'all should really make sure that you are checking that out because that will be there. There was once a series of chronoscribes. You see, there existed a major war with time. Not necessarily the same war. Or maybe it was. Who knows? It got all jumbled. But what was tasked to the chronoscribe was to try to find a way to end it. Each chronoscribe was presented with a crown that had the techniques of prior chronoscribes within, and a way to connect to the temporal realm, also known as the chronosphere, a vast ethereal domain where time flowed in all directions and dimensions, and it existed parallel to all the worlds, accessible only to those that had the ability to manipulate and understand the fabric of time. So these individuals were carefully found, selected, and eventually it came to the redacted chronoscribe's turn. And she took on the mantle with the understanding that no chronoscribes ever came back. You see, the chronoscribes, even if they could not win or stop this eternal war that was happening all across worlds and all across time, they could make a reprieve. Give the people enough time to keep living until everything started again. So she knew going into it, she was probably not going to come back. She was either going to end it or at least give everybody else a fighting chance to figure something else out, as it has happened time and time before. However, over time, this role got corrupted. It was more of a prison than a duty. Everybody called her the honored chronoscribe, yet she was carefully monitored, as though everyone was afraid that their soon-to-be savior would run off and abandon her duties. She was assigned a knight. This knight was always to be within her sight, all around her, and she came to resent that. She was hoping for a friend in this realm, this world, where everyone was expecting her to end. She at least wanted a trusted companion in the last years, days, months of however long she would be. But it became clear that they had other loyalties. Until they abandoned them, and they became a true knight and chronoscribe and began to fight in the wars together. She would negotiate, and some of this is not on TikTok. I have drafts, but sometimes things get just a little eaten and don't want to post anymore. So, but she not only fought these beings, these things that were eating time, that were causing all these ripples and all these monsters, she was trying to negotiate between all these worlds that were being forced to come together because of all these rips. Past and present were meeting. Different worlds were meeting. Alternate versions of people were meeting. And it was also part of her duty to try to negotiate and help them find peace, at least until everything could be restored. And suspicion started creeping in her mind. All these years, no one could fight against what was happening. All of these people capable, because it's a magical place when all of time is collapsing upon itself. All these powerful people, some probably on par with her, yet it kept happening. An inkling in her mind that something was wrong. And this redacted chronoscribe, as she started going through the final part of her journey where all the others came, began to hear and see. Because you see, in the chronosphere, you have something called a temporal echo. And these temporal echoes are these imprints of beings and events from different times. And they manifest as these figures and replay significant moments. And she realized all of them died, which was expected, but all of them died fighting one thing that would digest and then spit them back out into the very crown that she wore on her head. It was all a setup, all of these pain, all of this for this deity that was playing with all of these worlds, all of these times. And the redacted chronoscribe didn't have the illusion that she could necessarily defeat it, but she could at least lock it in this chronosphere. She could stop everything. And she begged her knight to go back. But they didn't. They fought with her. And they did not last. They died quite quickly. And she tried to save them. And they just couldn't. And on this journey, the chronoscribe had been given a cloak from this knight. Ridiculous cloak, full of sparkles and shine, so gaudy. But she had promised to wear it because nobody could look at that and not smile. And she was going to wear it when all of this was over, as a symbol of hope. And she said, no more, this can't continue. And then she realized, what if it never started? What if no chronoscribe ever existed? Nothing existed to feed this strange deity that was causing all of these wars, all of these rifts, everything across time. She had the power that had been spit out again and again. If none of this ever happened, the night would still exist. These worlds would be without pain. And all she had to do was find one moment in time and stop it. And so she did. She took the crown and put it within herself. All of this power that a mortal should never have wielded in the first place, but now uncontained within the crown. Now within her. And it consumed her. And though she told this deity that there would no longer be a chronoscribe, the chronoscribe always existed. Now, because something had to exist to protect time, to protect everything. And so Odile rose. And Odile always has been. And Odile made short work of this thing, this creature within her realm? What you doing in my chronosphere? Ugh! And the redacted chronoscribe got their wish. The wars ended, but they couldn't simply just. Some had to run their course in their own realms. So all of these new wars emerged, but all these worlds no longer had to touch each other, no longer had to encounter, but the wars had to be. But not on the scale that they had. The night lived, but they weren't a night anymore. No one knew her anymore. In fact, she never existed, the redacted chronoscribe, because the only chronoscribe that ever existed was Odile. That's the way it has been. That's the way it always been. And no one can remember the chronoscribe. That's the only way that the universe is safe. Even if you encounter her, as soon as you're gone, your memories will shift. Things will slide into place to replace her. You were looking for some obscure magical solution. Well, you found it. No one led you to it. You remember having to go through some sort of trial, but it must have been so exhausting that you just blocked it from your memory. But she has always been there. She's always existed. Loud, proud. And she sees things in all perspective. She sees what has been, what could be, all the probabilities, the future. So when she looks at you, she looks through you. You're a child, you're an adult, you're dying, you're being born, you're everything and nothing. And what does that guide us into? What is the second question? I should have written them down.
No worries. The second question is important moments to them that shaped them into a deity.
Okay, so I should have just kept yapping. Okay. Well, you kind of got the story of what shaped them, but she continued to be shaped. As you can imagine, all of this power really does come with quite a cost, especially when no one can remember you, and she understands that. But it's so strange to care so deeply about these events, these time, these things that need to be maintained, but also forever changing. Because the fun thing about mortals is the indomitable spirit they carry. You see, yes, there's things that she must preserve, but the lovely thing about mortals is they always have the power to change their own fate. And so she doesn't get in their way. She documents, she maintains the temporal integrity, but she understands it's always ever flexing, shifting. But there comes a point where, with these responsibilities, you feel kind of like a doll, only coming to life when you're needed. And you're always needed, so you exist for others. And so she, over time, just became louder and louder to remind herself that she is known. And one of the, and I guess this shifts into people, and because I think the last question is the important people. So these kind of go hand in hand. One such person is Baudru's grandfather, Jericho, which you can also catch that fanfiction on Ko-fi. Yes, I plug in. But Jericho was a unique traveler in that he'd been to her realm several times before with the chronosphere, always seeking knowledge as a traveler does, fighting in his own fights. And, of course, he always forgot her. But it was rather interesting because sometimes he'd look at her like he'd remember. Like they'd have the conversations before, and she'd be like, well, this is so funny, you're always so funny. And she didn't mind repeating their same conversations, but one day he changed the script. He asked her to go with him. And that was one of the first times her world stopped. She could still look at him and see his beginning and who he was and all the possibilities, but for once, she'd been integrated into somebody else's timeline. And so the possibilities she could not be privy to. And there was one rule that he needed to not leave her. Because once you do, you forget her. So they traveled a time. But eventually, his own duties did lead to him having to leave and look away. And the next time they met, he didn't remember her, and so she had to go. But she would still be popping in. I'm not sure I actually sent you this fan fiction, Sphinx. But I do. I'll need to brush it up and send it. But just so you know, audience, Sphinx said I could play. She would always pop up, this sparkly woman, every once in a while that he would forget. And I don't think he could remember her, but he would remember that hope when she would look at him. Like somebody looking at him that wanted him so badly. But it seems that every time she looked, he never knew what she was looking for. And it came into a culmination one day where this elderly Jericho found a sparkly woman with his grandson. And it was just kind of a meltdown where she was just ranting about how it wasn't fair that she couldn't have him. She could always be his friend, but he could never be hers. And now, this is her friend, this grandchild, but he's not ready yet. And the grandchild's going to have to go through so much, and she can't do anything, because if she does, neither of them would be happy. Things have to play out. And it was just a moment when she realized that she cannot have the first friend that she's made. Jericho had now become a point that would have to go away because Badru needed to become the one of the Everbright. And so their adventures together could not continue. And she saw that he would become this champion of bards. And now she has her own motives for taking that title from him. And I'm not going to say what it is, but there is a hint that... Nope, I'm not even going to say that. We're going to just jump to another connection. But you will find out. But he is worthy of a title. I will tell you that. He's just chosen the wrong one. It's not champion. It's greater than that. So she has to take it so that she can help him know what his true title is. But if she just said that, he'd be saying nonsense. But another important person she met is Jemmy. Jemmy, for some reason, has become attached to Odile. Now, I'm going back in time. I'm being dramatic, Diamond, okay? Of course, with their duties, they clash. Not clash so much, but they were doomed to run in... Not doomed. I'm using the wrong words. They were meant to run into each other. Because the Chronosphere has all kinds of stories that Jemmy would need to collect. You see, in her realm, not only are there temporal streams, there are epic isles, EPOCH. And within this chronosphere are islands that represent significant events or epics. And they're static, and they can be visited to observe or interact with pivotal moments in time. They're eternal records that perhaps if they were not documented correctly, would be very helpful for those that need to collect these stories, these epics of their own. And especially with the temporal echoes that have the ability to be those imprints to tell their point of views if you catch them in the right moment. I assume that they would have met when the curator might have needed something like that. But to her surprise, Jemmy could remember her. Sometimes the universe is funny like that. She didn't question it, but became obsessed with this curator. And they became friends, and Jemmy could see the loneliness and madness in equal bounds within Odile, and took the time to, every time they meet, let Odile know that she's real. Because sometimes Odile doesn't know, because she looks at Jemmy and she sees everything. And sometimes Jemmy would look at her and see Odile is lost within all of this that she has to do. And so Jemmy has own little teacup for Odile. Odile steals Jemmy's date cards towards other people's, which I'm sure Jemmy will explain when it's her turn. But Jemmy helps Odile remember that she's not just the chronoscribe. She is someone, at least to her. And then, of course, we have Tyzon, the the one that also can remember her, and she is baffled that all of these champions can remember her. Phobator and all, so not so much surprise her, because if they've always existed, then of course, if they've both existed at the start and during everything past, present, future, and at all times, of course, they can remember her, because it's their responsibility to exist within everyone. So that makes sense to her, but it's very tricky when she looks at them, because it's all together. And so it's just so many things she's seeing. So she doesn't quite even know what they look like. It's just like, you're so much there. But Tyzon is just fun. Because he can give her all his attention, because he doesn't make connections to anyone. And so she'll just come into his realm like, oh my gosh, do you know what Becky did? I don't even know Becky, but let me tell you what she did. She appeared as a temporal echo in my realm today. Here's the tea, Tyzon. Here's the tea. And so he's just I imagine at first, unwilling participant. But then he sees that she's really not messing with any of his stuff. She's just existing, and understands that she doesn't expect these bards, these Bardsonas, these deities to be heroes to these mortals. Like, we got other things to do. And wow, that's unfortunate that they keep coming into your realm. Jeez. Kind of stupid of them, really. Not iconic. And see, that smile is probably why they became friends. Because she's not just like, why aren't you helping them? She's like, oh, they should have tried harder. Get on your level. Pathetic. Because similarly, people have to work to get to the chronosphere. They have to have some connection with time. It's useless if you don't. Like, the ones that do reside there are chronomancers, and they're the rare individuals with the ability to naturally manipulate time. So she doesn't see a lot of people, and the ones that aren't those types, like Jericho, and probably Badru a time or two that he does not remember. You gotta be fighting hard against fate to reach her realm. And she's like, okay. But then she looks at Taizan's people and she's like, oh, they should fight harder. Hey, how about you kill them? Kill them. They're breathing your air. Come on, Taizan. um, so those are some strong connections, but I feel like throughout, even within herself, she recognizes, she gets these pangs that there's somebody that she used to know, but she doesn't remember. And she never will remember because it never was. I think I've answered all those questions.
Damn. Wow. Okay. Oof. All right. Well, I have. I'll start. I'll start our alternate questions, and we'll continue with the with one of the themes here. For Odile, what tea from Friday Afternoon Teas would she choose?
She would take all of them and mix them into one pot. Just to make that happen. She'd be like, hey, is this bothering you? This is why you shouldn't let your guests fix their own tea. They might do things like this. Oh, is this bothering you? Keeps adding things.
Y'all heard it here. If you want to be like Odal, you gotta buy each and every one of their teas.
Do it.
You just gotta buy all the teas.
Which is a year's endeavor, because those things, some of those are seasonal. But
Not a problem when you got time at your hands.
That's true. That's true.
But I feel like that's what she'd do. She'd look right at Badru, who seems to be most sensitive about tea. I mean, I'm sorry, I keep calling. And I think that she'd do that too, because she'd be like, Badru, Jericho's grandson, but he don't know.
Yeah. Like all of the if she's seeing like all of the versions of him, past, present, and future at once, then that's understandably so.
Yeah. So that's why on the first episode, if y'all haven't listened to it, that's why she's like, I need you to give me something more solid when I'm talking to you because it's hard to focus. And I imagine she says his name wrong on purpose sometimes. She's like, okay, hush, Gryko. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I get it wrong? Gecko. Just like...
Not a gecko.
it's just like all the audacity.
I have to ask, with the jacket, is there only one, or is there like a fashion line in some universe where Odile's jacket was just like so inspirational to one like seamstress, and they're just like, I have to imprint this in my soul now. So that's just the attire for something. I need to know if that exists or how that would look like, because with people coming to her for like information or quest lines, I don't know if you've met a fashion designer, but those bitches are resilient.
I imagine that there are some things inspired by her piece, because that's part of why she wears it. She wants to be, even on an unconscious level, remembered. And so I imagine like all these ridiculous things you see, like I used to, and it's not ridiculous, they're fabulous, but I used to own this pair of extra sparkly shoes. I still own one pair, but they're rough. But I imagine it's little things like that that you see scattered within the realms where they're just like, that is a lot. But dang, I kind of like it. Like, it's just like a little something that you're like, I would never wear that. But I respect it. But it's also eternally a part of her that she does not know. Like, she's wearing it because she's loud, but even if she like tries to switch to something else, she's like, time for a new outfit. That stays. It stays, and she doesn't know why. You don't got a question for me, Tyzon?
Dan just calling me out. Okay. Damn.
Well, I can keep yapping while you think.
I mean,
So-
I guess I could ask the same question I asked about Badru. If Odile could go back and change the events that led to her being who she is, would she?
No. Because it needed to happen. There always needed to be a chronoscribe to prevent anything like this happening. And even though all those wars had to run their course in their own timelines, in their own realms, in their own places, amongst their own people, if there was never a chronoscribe, it would have never stopped. So she would make the same decision again and again. It's her duty.
Fair, fair.
Oh, these characters make me sad sometimes, but I love them.
Yeah.
dearly.
Yeah.
I guess it's my turn.
Like no one's story is happy the whole way through.
This is also true.
That's true.
It's back to life. Yeah. So, Jemmy Horde was actually born in a world that was not quite complete yet. In that there was no word for monsters. There was no word for humanoids. There was no word for any kind of being who lived on that world. It just was. Everyone just was. Until one day, something changed that. And in a blink, everything had a name. Everything had a designation. Everything had a purpose. Everything had a reason for being the way it was. And that made a lot of people very irritated. And they didn't like the way things were. So, one of these people was a little bit hubris, we'll call them, and decided to take a baby manticore in as a charge. At least they called it a charge, but it was not. They did not have good intentions towards this baby manticore. I knew I was going to get that reaction. And they sought to set things back the way that it was supposed to be. Where nothing had to be a certain way. Things could change at will. One moment you could be something that was a creature of land. Another moment you could be a creature of sea. Another moment you could be a creature of water. You just were. And so this hubris person decided they wanted to attempt this. By creating a true chimeric manticore. Through blending science, magic, technology, thoughts, ideas, creation itself. They wanted to play God. To to try to set things back the way they wanted it to be again. And so this little baby manticore was the first attempt, and the only attempt. And no one knows what happened to that person. No one knows what happened to the place where these tests and trials and experiments took place. Because all the denizens there, well, who lived near there at least, because no one ever went there, because there was a lot of weird things going on. Those people had some good common sense. All they know is that they heard the most spine-chilling, blood-curdling, bone-cracking sound that echoed across the plains. And then the sound of a building shattering completely, leaving nothing behind. Not a mere speck of dust, not a little pebble from the rubble, not a shard of glass, not even the smell of magic existed. Wherever that was stood. Just nothingness. And the only survivor was this not quite a baby anymore. Monstrous creature. Covered in dust and gravel and debris and glass shards. And a couple of very crimson fluids staining their claws and their maw and their tail. And everyone who came within seeing them ran away. And so they just kept walking. Because that's what you're supposed to do, is just keep walking. Until one day, they walked a little too far. Took a nap in a grassy cove that looked comfortable. And that had some very mysteriously, perfectly circular patterns on the ground. Made of flora and fauna. But was a perfect place to take a nap after a long and tiring adventure that had just started. And woke up being groomed and cleaned and embraced and nuzzled by a gynosphinx. The gynosphinx turned to this strange new mystery and introduced herself. The gynosphinx introduced herself as being I want to say leader of sorts of a fae land. Not very far, just a hop, a skip, a jump, and a deal away from the place where this little manticore was. Because compared to the gynosphinx, the manticore was very little. Gynosphinxes are not usually very tall. They're pretty much about the size of a horse-ish. This one, sitting down from the bottom of its toes to the tippy top of its ears, was about 8 stories tall. The gynosphinx introduced himself as the leader of a court of mystery within the Faelands, because there are many courts in the Faelands. Each one has a purpose, each one has a task, each one has a hobby. Each one likes to play little games with each other. And the gynosphinx thought that this little chimeric manticore was the perfect mystery to add to her love of mysteries. So how could she not love this little manticore? And decided to give the name of the flowers in the circle that was perfectly spherical to the manticore, being Gladiolus. And so thus, Gladiolus Mysteri was born, truly, with a name. Because in that land, to not have a name is to not be born. And they were never given a name before. So they carried it with dutiful pride and coveted it more than anything in this world. But Gladiolus is a lot to say, so most people who came about and gained a friendly relationship with him called them BB. And so BB, this chimeric manticore, learned very quickly that magic is necessary here. Knowing how to sharpen your tongue, knowing how to honeycoat your words, knowing when to speak and when to listen and when to observe and when to interfere and when to cause a little bit of extra trouble for the hell of it, when to cause a mystery, when to solve a mystery, when to covet a mystery. They learned everything from this Gynosphinx, and they loved every moment of it. And then they started to feel different over time, because time doesn't work right in the Feylands. They're Fey. They have a weird concept of time, but the Gynosphinx has control over time. And BB was theirs, in their lair, in their domain, in their territory. And BB's perception of time was the Gynosphinx's. And slowly BB realized the Gynosphinx was turning back time on them constantly to keep them young. Until one day they asked, can I grow up? Can I grow up now? I think I want to be older. Not much older, but I want to be older. Can I grow up now so I can go on bigger mysteries? And the Gynosphinx was happy to abide, forwarding the clock just a little bit in BB's timeline to let their body age and mature until they reached what would be adulthood for them. Because they'd been a young adult, preteen, teenager for so long. They didn't want to be a child again. They wanted to be an adult now. Because that's what adults do, is they keep everyone safe. And they decided to ask, it's like, now that I'm an adult, can I know your name? And the Gynosphinx repeated the name that BB had forgotten because BB didn't have a name and didn't know the power of a name. And so they got one. They got a part of the name. They got the name of Seer. Over time, Seer became Sirietta, and over time, Sirietta became Janandra. Sirietta Janandra, the leader of the Court of Mystery in these Feylands, known as the inquisitive and mysterious and secretive Gynosphinx, the only one to exist in these lands, who taught BB what it meant to take what you wanted, if it meant keeping what you wanted safe. And so BB thrived in these Feylands, thrived in the Court of Mystery, wore the last name of Mystery proud at court events and interacting with other courts. But there was a court that wasn't quite kind to the Court of Mystery. Led by an archfey who had grander dreams for a life of her own, who did not want to settle for being an archfey, who used trickery, who used persuasive and coercive tactics to find new court denizens and people to entertain her, and BB conflicted constantly with her. Her name is Amaryllis. And Amaryllis, this beautiful, radiant sunflower of an archfey, versus Gladiolus Mysteri, the literal sword of mystery, the sharpened blade that's been honed by a Gynosphinx themselves. Oh, the way they would clash at court. But that was only reserved for a couple of times a solstice, which BB was born in a winter solstice. Which one? We have no idea. There's no way to keep track of that, honestly. It's just a winter solstice. So every time the first snow would fall, BB would then be asked the question by Seer, would you like to be older now? And BB would say no. I'm old enough. I'm capable. I am happy. Until many snowfalls passed, and BB has not aged. And BB is happy with that because they're happy at the age they are. And then one day, a little Leonin is brought to court by their parents, coming to the Gynosphinx for knowledge, for secrets, for mysteries that need to be answered, and they are willing to offer their firstborn that was forged from their love of mysteries and wanting to find an answer for these mysteries, and offered the firstborn to Sirietta in exchange for answers. Sirietta and BB, seeing this, knew these two are not fit to be parents. You cannot forge a life just simply because you want an answer for something. And so they took the baby Leonin in and gave the Leonin a name of Morning Glory, and taught Morning Glory the same way that BB was taught. And Morning Glory grew, and every time that actually for this one, it's whenever the spring flowers start blooming. The first sunset with the first blooming of flowers, Morning Glory would be asked, would you like to grow older now? And Morning Glory would excitedly say yes. Yes, I want to be as tall as BB. I want to be as strong as BB, but I want to be smarter than BB. And so Morning Glory took on as to be the Bard of Mystery. Not a Bard of Mystery, but the Bard of Mystery. Because Morning Glory's songs are made of hints and riddles and playful tricks, playful phrases that can be read forwards and backwards, inside out, trappa apart, everything of the sort. And that was what Morning Glory was known for and beloved for. Until, of course, as all these stories go, there is happiness, there is growth, there is love. But then there is change that comes about. Eventually there is a dragonborn wizard coming to the Court of Mystery wanting to challenge Sirietta, saying, you do not deserve to have the title of the leader of this court. I hereby challenge you for that. Challenges are made and wagers are set. Sirietta says, you do not reside in these realms. You are not of my court. You cannot challenge me. But I will make you a deal. If you can beat one that I pick for you to face, you may name your prize, but you must name your prize now. And he wanted Morning Glory. He wanted to take Morning Glory back to another court. Because then Morning Glory would be basically a arranged marriage situation among the courts to then cause the basically melancholic feeling of discordant tunes and settle them into harmony. But he was seen through very quickly. It was no mystery of who he was sent by, for he wore a sunflower in his hat. And so Sirietta and Jemmy share a glance No, it needs to be done. And Sirietta says, no. You also do not belong in the Feywilds at all. Instead, I will offer the time that you have spent back on you, and you must name another prize. He then names whoever you set to face me shall then go with me back to the plane of mortality, where I shall ever live. So, of course, Gladiolus steps up, being the sword of mystery, throws the fight, and goes with him. In BB's defense, though, he was an asshole, and Morning Glory deserved better. Like, what is a court without a bard? A court can survive without a sword, and a bard can wield a sword, but also, BB wanted to see the world. And Sirietta knew that. It's not a mystery, it's obvious. and thus, as the two of them are set to leave, the Dragonborn wizard quickly finds out his time was gifted back to him, but he had lost half his lifespan, and then some. Don't play tricks with a Gynosphinx who has survived in the Feylands and knows how to play this game better than you. Moral of the story. And thus, BB tolerated this wannabe dragon. Because BB's met dragons. He is not a dragon. He's barely a dragonborn with that kind of personality. And waits a little bit longer, expecting their own body to start to age, and it never does. They're just kind of the same. But then they realize it's kind of hard to navigate as a manticore. And uses some of their abilities they had learned to then change their appearance. And they went through a few of them, finally settling on a Leonin that looks a lot like Morning Glory. So that every time they look in a reflection, they smile. Because the little bard still brings a smile to their face. Their little sibling that they loved and cared for so long. They smile every time the first sunrise and sunset, the first time that flowers bloom. They still smile every time the first snow falls. And finally, the first snow falls on a span of time, and the Dragonborn is gone. And they are now free to explore and adventure. But they find their memory slipping at moments where it's hard to remember Sirietta's full name. Sirietta had a last name. Has a last name. But it's not there anymore. And so, not to lose anything else, they start journaling. They find an artificer in love with a bookkeeper. They meddle a bit, sing a song of love, so they can dance together somewhere. They fall in love. BB then confesses that's like, I really wanted you two to be together. I saw potential here. And as a gift, the artificer and the bookmaker made the first journal. This beautiful journal with endless pages, crafted with magic and love, from songs and love. And BB carried it on all of their adventures, using their skills of knowing how to sketch and draw and write things quickly with both hands and their tail, mind you. And decided to just go adventure until one day, in one clearing, well, having fallen into they fell into a creek by their own admission. They didn't so much trip as they were trying to see closer at something they saw in the water and kind of fell in. But they fell into the creek, stood up, and caught sight of a very beautiful man changing his howery out for a clean one. Fully clothed, just changing that detail out. And they were just staring for a moment until they were caught. The man called out to them. They answered shyly, noticing they were standing still in the creek. And they decided instead of having a conversation, because it had been a while at that point of talking to someone, to just disappear from sight. Until finally their paths kept crossing again and again and again. And finally, this man, this Badru, such a name. Why does he smell like starlight? Why does he sound like universes being made and created when he plays? Why is there a pull to want to know more? What is the mystery of him? Just keeps bringing them back, and finally he just asked, "Do you trust me?" and offered a hand. And who are they to deny adventure and mysteries to be solved? So, BB traveled with Badru, had many adventures, made many connections. There was a time of a little bit too much to drink and dancing in a tavern. Words were spoken that Jemmy will deny. And BB has a written record of. So they exist. A story that, because time is a little weird for Jemmy, the story is going to be a little jumpy as well, but Jemmy also recounted this tale to Odile over one of their tea sessions of meeting a bard who smelled of starlight, and then, well, after having fallen into a creek, but also having then basically teased the ever-loving existence out of this poor man. But they had a good time. And then the fighting happened, and being caught in a fight with an adventuring party and having to reveal that the Leonin is just kind of a facade. It's just kind of a mask they wear. And showing the manticore form for the first time, and showing the rage, showing the glowing gold eyes. And eventually deciding to make a new name for themselves. Because of these battles, because of these adventures, becoming Jemmy Horde. The curator of epics, wanting to protect and curate and archive stories. These epic stories, because every story can be epic, depending on who's telling it. Wanting to caretake for these authors. And being so in love with stories, because what is a story but a mystery that has been unfolded for you? Wanting to be their own, not wanting to just be the child of a gynosphinx. Not wanting to just be an elder sibling to Morning Glory. Wanting to be their own person. Wanting to be a person, but also still proud of being a manticore. And finding a form that is somewhere between the Leonin form and the full manticoric, chimeric existence. And settling on something tall, feminine, beautiful, humanoid, but still enough of a scare for someone if they decide to make Jemmy mad. And the adventures continued, the battles continued, finding people in need of help, taking them along, joining this kind of caravan of survivors to build a new place somewhere, wanting in search of a home, Jemmy wanting nothing more than to give them a home, A home that Jimmy couldn't think of a name for, but someone would. Someone capable would. It's fine. Tinkering with a necklace with a pendant on it given to them some time ago. Jemmy in their current state can't remember who gave them that necklace, but they know it was someone important. As important as the teacup that Badru had given them, made with flowers on the handle and enchanted, because once it was chipped once upon a time. But there was again that pesky archfey. Not satisfied with how things had played out. Sending information to and from with one of their pacted chosen in the group. And deciding to create a bit of an ambush. A bit of a final conflict. That was a life or death situation, needing to be resolved, needing a sacrifice to be made. And Jemmy, Gladiolus, BB, Horde, Mysteri, curator of epics, caretaker of authors, who loves people and stories, was more than prepared to fight to the death and make them make that sacrifice. But before they could make that sacrifice, they realized they need to keep people safe. And so compacted all of these survivors and refugees and people seeking a new home into a interdimensional space in the necklace for safety, keeping them in stasis to keep them safe. And ripping out a page from this never-ending journal enchanted with love and care. Penning a note made of pure magic, pure love and care. Attaching it to the necklace and sending it away. To the one person they loved and cared about the most. Which is Badru. Who would be safer to make a home for these people that Jemmy cared for so much? Not knowing where Badru was, or when Badru was, would be probably a better question. Because time is weird for all of us, isn't it? Especially those of us who live so long. And Jemmy had seen this beauty of the travelers, had heard tales of it, felt that tie and that thread and that door to this place that they can just remember like it was the day before or the night before. Because that's the fun part of time being weird. As long as you have a memory of it, you can revisit it. And so they sent it through the memory to then meet him at some point and be safe, knowing those people would be safe, knowing the note would be safe, or so they thought. Because that's the other funny thing with time. You can maybe intercept a way that when the words are being written, they could be written differently if you know how it works on a different concept of love, like a selfish love. And so, Jemmy continued to fight alone, full on. Lots of rage, lots of anger, lots of protective spirit, lots of possessiveness for the story that is supposed to be theirs. And with their last few breaths and their last few blinks, they look up, knowing that the battle has been fought and finished. To someone in what we know to be a Hawaiian shirt, holding a tiki mug, offering a hand, and saying, "You done yet? Maybe? You done? Okay. Your story's not done, but are you done fighting? Because we need to go." And that someone is Amarist, the messenger of Doradin, who had been sent before to try to bring Jemmy to Doradin, but Jemmy would have refused, and Amarist only has one shot at this in a very busy schedule. And so Amarist once Jemmy accepts, knowing that Badru is somewhere out there, Badru will take care of all those people and continue, and Badru will end this fight because who is more capable than him? They're literal travelers. They're celestials. Put your faith in them, and it can be done. And Jemmy decided, okay, you say my story's done, and Jemmy went with Amarist. Which then answered the question of where is Jemmy from? Jemmy is from somewhere, but Jemmy is now located in Doradin, a multiplanar pocket dimension that was created at one point and now exists. You don't get the lore for that yet. I refuse. But Jemmy was brought to Doradin, very critically injured, quickly rushed into care to be healed and taken care of. And Jemmy was covered in these deep scars. Scars that were basically carved with betrayal in mind. And betrayal will run deep and hurt the heart itself. Because that was the purpose. It was to hurt the heart and the core of someone. Because physical damage cannot hurt someone who is changed from what they were so many times. But betrayal will stick. And so Jemmy was sequestered into a place to heal. The wounds were not healing because they required a gentle touch. A gentle touch given by Kiribis of Prylandia, an Asimard Leonin in Doradin, who was set to become a champion in Doradin, specifically the champion of knowledge and secrets, who was currently being offered the chance to take the Epic of Exaltation, which in Doradin is the only way to become a champion and to earn your mantle. And Kyros, having a kind heart, being a paladin bard of knowledge and secrets in its entire existence in Doradin, knew how to help. His heart knew. And his magic knew. His golden magic flowing from his clawed hands, slowly gaining the trust of Jemmy enough to be near them to heal them, thus filling the betrayal with golden love and comfort. Filling those markings, but not completely sealing them because it cannot be done. The betrayal was carved too deep. But they can be filled, they can be fixed over time. And so that gold spread, it brightened, it shined like sunlight. And so the connection between Jemmy and Kyros grew. And Kyros grew to have deep love, in a way. It didn't have to be romantic. Love is love. At least in Doradin, love is love. Everywhere else, it might be something different. But Kyros healed Jemmy. Jemmy trusts Kyros more than anyone else in the world. And Jemmy already had the eyes of the true deity of knowledge and secrets in Doradin on them. Iridorith, a Cambion, who decided to say, fuck Asmodeus, I don't like you, I'm leaving now. Who used to be an archdevil, mind you. She's very good with rules and laws and things, but she likes knowledge and secrets more. You wouldn't think it, she kind of looks like a demonic lawyer, which might just be a lawyer, depending on where you're from. In Doradin, they're very nice. But that is justice and balance's domain. So, 4. Iridorith, seeing Jemmy and Kyros growing close and knowing Kyros' reluctance to take on this Epic of Exaltation. Over time, eons have passed at this point. Jemmy was then offered. You call yourself Curator of Epics. Would you like to do more with that? Because taking on the title, taking on the mantle of the Champion of Knowledge and Secrets, would connect you on a deeper level and entwine you with the domain of the curator of epics. Someone who is the one who facilitates the storytelling in Doradin. The one who is truly the heart of the authors. Muse Song. No, not a song, but a child. Muse Child. The one and only orator that ever was and ever will be. At least, that's what Muse Child says. I think it's for job security. And so Jemmy does it. Jemmy does the Epic of Exaltation. The entire world of Doradin immediately knows that Jemmy Horde is the one and only champion of knowledge and secrets. They know the now archived historical Epic of Exaltation of Jemmy Horde. And they know Jemmy's story. They revel in it. They find love in it. They find heartbreak. They find betrayal. They also now know that Jemmy and Kyros have something going on. It is public record. And Jemmy takes the place as champion, making their mantle into the book made of love for stories and song and tales. And a pen and a quill is crafted that can interact with the book without Jemmy needing to be near it, and it is connected to Jemmy and Jemmy's entire existence. What is in that book is true. Until one day, because the way that Doradin works is, Doradin is contained. Doradin is Doradin. Nothing can leave Doradin without it being taken out of Doradin. And things can only come into Doradin if they want to be there with true intention. And one day, knowledge of a champion of bards enters Doradin. And then Jemmy realizes there are gaps in their memory, because a champion cannot see another champion's true story. They can only see what is written in an Epic of Exaltation. And this champion of bards does not have an Epic of Exaltation in Doradin, thus erasing entire chapters of Jemmy's memory. Just a gap. Empty spaces, pages that were filled with sketches, words removed that should be there, and there's even indents in the pages still of words and sketches that were there. Jemmy knows they love the tea glass they have. They know it's important. They know someone that they loved gave it to them. Someone who never came for them. They have an indent in their notebook telling someone to come find them. But they were left somewhere. And that part of their memory is dark now. But it's not dark like the shadowed veil. The grand library of secrets and knowledge is dark. It's empty. Like the way that Jemmy left that place where they were changed is empty. There's no magic. There's no love. There's no feeling anymore there. And that emptiness is fueled now by rage. That someone outside of Doradin dares call themselves a champion, but their Epic of Exaltation is not noted. And as a curator of epics, that is a failing on Jemmy's part that needs to be resolved. So Jemmy has a conversation with the Order of Epics to arrange for a door to be, a pocket dimension to be organized, a door to be set up, to then leave, because apparently others have been notified of this information as well, including Odile. Beloved, pretty dove Odile. And Jemmy remembers vaguely someone keeping them company on long nights in their office, which is its own temporal space, pocket dimension of its because Jemmy works very, very, very long eons on a project. And it was somebody who used to be with them when they were younger, and whenever they were still among those outside of Doradin, and they used to sit and talk and have these deep conversations. And they could be described as a nightmare, maybe? With red eyes that glow like a hair in the brush at night. But Jemmy can't put a face to a name. But Jemmy also thinks they had more than one face, to be honest. Those notes still exist, but they never got a real sense on that, because daydreaming. It's a little weird. Dreams and nightmares, about the same thing. But Odile. Jemmy met Odile so long ago and knew immediately, I'm keeping this one. Made sure that somewhere where their mental sat, the quill was sketching a portrait of Odile, the person standing in front of them. Completely rendered and accurate. Learning a new technique to draw the shimmering on the jacket? It's obviously enchanted. Nothing sparkles like that, actually. That's just Odile being Odile. That's just Odile being iconic. And then, why is the troubadour here? Why is there the composer of chronicles in this pocket dimension as well? And slowly Jimmy learns that all of them have been gathered and have all each issued a challenge to this champion of bards. But if you want to hear the rest of it, you gotta watch the first episode. But this is basically the story of Jemmy Horde. This is who Jemmy is, who the important people to them are obviously Badru, the Sphinx, who is known as Sirietta, who is the leader of the Court of Mysteries, being their basically surrogate mother. Morning Glory, of course, being their younger sibling, who they took the visage of on for so long. Kiribus of Prylandia, who is the Ace-Brent Leonin, who then healed Jemmy with love. And then we cannot forget the most handsomest man in all of Doradin, Oscar. A chimera. A adorable little chimera who can talk sometimes. It's situational. It's for dramatic effect. Who can also change his shape at will and go invisible and causes mischief. Keeps Jemmy on their toes. But that's the story of where Jemmy's from, who's important to them, and how they became a deity. Because Jemmy is technically a champion, which in Doradin is a form of deity, versus the actual deities. It's just a technicality. So, I open the floor to my fellow bards.
That was epic.
Well, I am the curator of epics and also the order of epics, so...
Yay.
You stepped into those shoes 100%.
Well, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness.
I think, however, I think I got pronouns mixed up.
You're fine.
It's not fun. That's Odile's best friend, and I've ruined things.
You have not ruined things. Odile has so many privileges.
They're
So
they're not. I think I got everything all mixed up. They're they, them, not they, she.
Jemmy is both. I use they, them for Jemmy because I think Jemmy's a manticore. I don't think manticores actually have gender.
That's true.
I refuse to believe that manticores abide by gendered terms.
Okay.
That's terrifying.
That's truth. I am corrected. Okay, there we go. Sorry for my misunderstanding.
No, you're fine. Well, because it's also the thing of Jemmy going and switching between forms so often. Jemmy will always take on a more feminine form because they were raised by a feminine figure. Because if you don't know, a Gyno Sphinx is a female Sphinx.
Yeah.
So, versus the one that starts with an A.
Andrew Sphinx.
There you go.
Andrew Sphinx, yeah.
Yes. So Jemmy will use feminine terms. Like, you can use she, her pronouns for Jemmy. Jemmy may be a little like, oh, okay, about it, but we'll never rebuff you for it. It's the same way that I use they, she pronouns. It's like, of course, my self-insert uses they, she pronouns. But just defaults to they, them. So, no, you don't feel bad.
Now, it will never happen again. Ever.
I want to give a little bit of context to the fact of, like, Odile has privileges. Because Bryn said that Odile steals the date tickets from people. I need people to know that if you play in one of my games, one of my epics, Jemmy acts as a safety tool, and I will offer you these, like, tickets, and they're reservations to basically be summoned to Jemmy's domain. As her, like, their champion domain. And it will teleport you out of a situation that you don't want to be in. So then we can move the story forward. But if you also just meet Jemmy and Doradin, you get one of these appointment tickets. And then I have to roll for it to see if Odile has stolen it.
Oh, I can't wait for that. That's gonna be fun to mess with.
Like, Bryn has changed the way I functionally use things in my own games.
I love that.
Hit me with your questions.
I'm gonna ask the same question I asked last time. Hey, Diamond. What tea would our champion
Of knowledge.
Jemmy? Yeah, what our champion of knowledge and secrets get from Fridays?
Nose in a book. It's the Beauty and the Beast tea. Which has,
Of course.
it's a caffeinated black tea that has rose petals in it. And Jemmy loves caffeine, just like I do, and loves rose petals as a fragrance to put into something. So,
Nice.
yeah.
I believe, you can correct me if I'm remembering it correctly, when you said Jemmy finished her ritual, what was it called, or something? What was the name of the ritual she created? She completed?
The Epic of Exaltation. It's what...
Thank you.
Yes, it's what champions do to get their mantle.
When she finished that, you said that her status as the curator of epics became known to everybody at that moment.
Everyone in Doradin. Because no knowledge leaves Doradin unless someone takes it out. So every time because Doradin is accessible as an open door. So the way that this works is that I built it that way as the creator to allow people to bring in characters from games that they never got to finish because their stories aren't completed yet.
Oh.
And they get to play those characters, which is also why Doradin is system malleable. So I can run any system in Doradin. As y'all will eventually find out. And so, because of that, this also means that if I have players who are bringing in characters from an ongoing campaign to run a one-shot, if those characters leave and their time syncs up, the knowledge of Doradin that they experienced and that they would know in that moment then leaves Doradin into that world that they've gone to. So there are worlds who will recognize Jemmy as the curator of epics and the champion of knowledge and secrets. Yeah.
Well, my question was going to be, does she regret having the entirety of Doradin know this about her, or is it, like, were there any pitfalls to this? Like, were there any negatives to that?
So in Doradin, there are built-in antagonists called the critics. So authors are ones who are building a story or telling a story. They're creating something. Critics are there to bring down something. They're being critical of something someone else has created when they have no right to be. Maybe they have good intentions, but they don't. So when Jemmy's status was then known as becoming the champion of knowledge and secrets, but then also has this built-in story of naming themselves as the curator of epics in this entire task that they were doing, there would be people who came forward and said, it's like, from what I know of your story, that's not how that works. You can't just do that. You didn't earn that. And then Jemmy will say, it's like, you need to look again. Because Jemmy was basically being trained by... Yes, Sphinx, I know that the hypocritic... The hypocritic. There you go, that's the word I need. Yeah. There's a reason for that. There's a reason. It's like, kick my desk. But yeah, Jemmy was basically being taught how to curate things, mostly mysteries, by the Sphinx. And so it only made sense for them to be the curator of epics whenever they decided to keep that part of their life with them and put it into a title that meant something, that could add safety and comfort. To know that any story you make, it always has a place in Doradin. It always has a place with Jemmy, because your story will exist in Jemmy's book, and you will never be forgotten.
I like that.
Yeah.
Is that how, I guess this will be my question, is that how you think Jemmy is able to remember Odile?
Yeah.
Ah!
Absolutely. Like, unless Odile names herself champion, on top of being a Cronus, because that's the loophole in it, is that if someone names themselves champion outside of Doradin, and they do not have a Epic of Exaltation in Doradin, then everything pre them becoming champion that would be in the Epic of Exaltation, Jemmy can't perceive it. It's still there somewhere, but it has to be re-recorded again. Jemmy has to basically relive it in a way, because similar to how, Bryn, how your stuff works in like Odile's story with like those kinds of things where you can go and visit them. The epics of exaltation are there as historical epics. They are the key foundations of Doradin, and without them, Doradin would crumble.
So I want you to think, viewers, why is Odile doing this if it means it would cost her best friend? So think about that, viewers, and think about that current champion. Think about that.
Well, that
There are reasons.
well, that brings to me a question regarding championhood in Doradin. So for Griot to be officially recognized by the realm of Doradin as a champion, does that mean that Griot would have to go to Dorian and essentially register himself
Kind of not
by
really.
taking on the...
So this is why I built that loophole in, because there is a way to fix it.
Okay.
Yeah. It's that the easy way to fix it is to exist in Doradin in some kind of capacity and to tell your story. It would entail Griot basically going to Doradin and telling his story. Or he could even tell it as the story that led up to this moment.
Interesting.
It would be a prologue to a story that already exists. And then it can be archived.
Interesting.
And it would be archived
Okay.
under the story of the Champion of Bards. Or it would be the story of the Last Traveler. It would be the story of, like, your character. And it's a way that also, that people can exist in Doradin. They can come and play a one-shot, and their character will be remembered. They can always come back and revisit.
Okay.
But then they will
I like
also
that.
fundamentally change a part of Doradin. So, I built it out of
Oh.
love for telling stories and letting
I
people
like
tell
that.
stories with me. So,
I like that. I like that.
alright. I think we hit everybody. We will do our lovely Selkie Cove and the story of Erebos, Phobator, and Rabbit on our Ko-Fi.
Indeed.
Where we're going to get to hear Selkie's answers and then hear what went into building this creepy, cute daydream nightmare.
The embodiment of dreams and nightmares. Love it.
So, yeah. This was fun.
Yeah, this was fantastic. Thank you, all of you, for hanging out and telling and having us all talk about our Bardsonas and having some bardic lore drops for all of us. And thank you, viewers. And listeners and all of you out there across the multiverse for hanging out with us at this special episode of Tea at the Table. Once again, please check all of us out on our individual things as well as what we do here with the Everbright Archive. If you want more information, more lore drops, more interaction with us, please check out our Discord. Check out our socials. Things are weird right now with some of the social media platforms that are out there. But we're still here, doing our best to do good work and create community around telling stories that are beautiful and lovely and maybe a little weird, but what's a bit of weirdness in the story? So thank you, all of you, once again, for as always coming with us and walking the storied path. I am Sphinx Akashaa, of course, joined by Sweet T, Bardic Sweet T.
I guess it's part where I talk about myself.
Hello,
I have been Sweet T. It's been a pleasure to divulge the story of Taizan to you all. I can be found on all the social medias at Bardic Sweet T. That has been me. I apologize. It is 12:45 in the morning. My brain is at 0.
That is fair. That will take us to Brynniursa.
Hey there, hi there, hole there. I gotta do it at least once a session. I must. I've lost where we are recording. It's very distressing. I'm just looking at my blank. Well, not blank. It's a screen that my friend drew of our characters. It's very cute.
Oh.
I have no way to show it to you, or I would. But I'm just... It's disconcerting that I can't see where my window went.
Oh, no.
But that's the joy of having cats, y'all. They press things.
It's true.
This is the greatest exit of all time. You're welcome. I'm Brynniursa. That's all you need to know. It is also 12:44 in the morning for me as well.
and you also need to know that Brynniursa is an icon. That's the other thing you need to know.
An icon.
An icon. And I'll take us to Madness Diamond.
Hiya, again. I'm still Madness Diamond, and we're still friends, so you can still call me Diamond. You can find me everywhere at Madness Diamond on social medias. I'm on all the ones that matter. If you search up my username, I probably have it. If you want to see the video versions of Jemmy's story, especially the duets that Sphinx and I have been doing, they exist on TikTok, if it's still a thing when this comes out. And then they also are going to exist on Instagram as soon as I transfer some files. If you want to interact with us, please join our Discord. If you want to see bonus content, please consider subscribing to our Ko-Fi page. And yeah, but I do a lot of stuff in the TTRPG industry. I do a lot. It's just what that is. If you go to my Blue Sky, you'll see a pin post that I need to update, apparently, because new things got added to it. But I hope you enjoyed walking the storied path with us. I hope you enjoyed this Build-A-Bard edition of Tea at the Table. And I hope you come listen to Selkie's special one.
Hey. And with that, we say good night, good day, good time zone, wherever you are, whenever you are. Keep walking the storied path. And, of course, may the dice roll ever in your favor. See you all next time.